Hey guys, Raelcun here. I'm here to talk to you about something a little bit different, and that is speedrunning. Speedrunning StarCraft specifically, and that's a topic that some of you might be aware of, and others probably have absolutely no clue. If you saw my run at Awesome Games Done Quick, you're just gonna have to bear with me for a little bit because I do have to go over the basics just to bring everybody up to par first. So, speedrunning is the basic idea of just playing a game as quickly as you can. It has a very basic competitive level in that when there are multiple people involved, you compare your times, try to see who can do better, and you work together to try and beat the game. It's you against the game developer, basically. And StarCraft 2 has been getting a bit more attention in context of speedrunning because of my run at Awesome Games Done Quick, and a lot of people have been asking me about Heart of the Swarm, and what do you think about speedrunning Heart of the Swarm? Will you speedrun Heart of the Swarm? And honestly, I just can't say because I haven't played the game yet. I don't have it. I have to wait until I have the game. It's not something I can decide to do before I've really touched it before. Of course, we're talking about the campaign, not multiplayer, and because of that means I just have to wait. So Day 9 was nice enough to let me come on and talk to you guys about speedrunning, so I am going to go over the thought processes behind speedrunning StarCraft. Since it is a little bit unusual for a game like this to be speedrun, I want to give you guys a little bit of in-depth process of how I break down a mission, how I look to break it, and how I look to do it as fast as possible so that maybe some of you who are interested in Heart of the Swarm in the context of speedrunning could take some of this home. Once you get your game home and play the campaign, you could look into it yourselves. If you do become interested in speedrunning, you could check out speedrunslive.com. It's a great place for racing other people's, and speeddemosarchive.com has a great forum for discussing speedruns and tactics with other people as well. So that being said, let's jump right into it. Okay guys, so the first thing you want to do when you're getting interested in running a new game is you just want to play it. Play it normally, try and complete it as much as you can, and really just explore its mechanics. Figure out what makes it tick. One of the next things you want to do with an RTS is you want to examine the mission path. In Wings of Liberty, there are 26 missions, and the bare minimum to complete the game is 19. So the next thing that I had to do when I was picking up this game is figure out which 19 missions I wanted to play. So I found this mission tree. This was available pretty shortly after release, but if you can't find one of these for Heart of Swarm, you can probably just make your own. I needed to figure out which 19 missions I wanted to play, and also pay attention to which missions unlocked what units, because doing missions slightly out of order would make other missions easier with access to other units. So what you do while looking at this is you want to just play all the missions. Even if it's not something you normally do, you want to try them all because you don't want to be missing options just because you never tried them. And get a quick idea of which missions are faster than others, which one of them unlocks something really good. Come up with a very basic plan. And after that, the next thing you want to look at before you even start trying to plan anything else out are the upgrades. If you go into the armory and the science lab in the Hyperion, it's going to be kind of the equivalent to the upgrades for Kerrigan and the evolutions for the units in Heart of the Swarm. You want to look at the individual unit upgrades and figure out which ones are going to be more useful when you're trying to break the game, so to speak. Because with speedrunning, one of the things you're constantly doing is you're trying to outthink the developers. You're trying to come up with situations that they didn't think of and do things that they didn't intend to complete their game as fast as possible. A few of the upgrades that allow that in Wings of Liberty are the Ghost upgrade that allows you to stay cloaked indefinitely. That is very useful because cloaked units can really mess with the computer's AI. Another upgrade you definitely want as soon as possible is the Medic upgrade that allows them to not be produced from tech labs, which means then you can produce them from reactors, which is always good. Reactors are pretty good. Marines and medics in Wings of Liberty are, as you say, a good skill to have. Another upgrade you probably want to focus in on immediately would be the Orbital Command upgrade, which allows you to get free orbital commands. That's always a good thing, mules. And the tank upgrades, which increase their damage and decrease their splash damage. These are all really good upgrades that we can use to our benefit. And just the rest of them, you just want to analyze on a case-by-case basis. As with Heart of the Swarm, you can't unlock them all in a speedrunning condition, so you're going to have to pick and choose which ones you want. When we move over to the Science Lab, there's a couple upgrades we want to focus on particularly. I'm not going to go over them all, but just because these ones are very crucial to the mission in general. This is where a lot of people go wrong when they're trying to speedrun StarCraft 2 on Brutal, is if you pick some of the different upgrades in the Science Lab, you can make it very difficult on yourself. In particular, the weapons versus armor upgrade. The armor upgrade looks very attractive, But the weapons upgrade gives you something that is not accessible at any other point in the game except for Stimpack, and that is increasing your unit's attack speed is very, very strong in an RTS setting. Stimpack really is strong because of the mobility and the increased DPS. So by picking up the weapon upgrade here as opposed to the armor, it allows all of your units to do way more damage. And since it's a percentage increase, that means units like the siege tank, who do hard-hitting, slow-firing shots, get a higher increase in damage than units like the Marines. That'll be important later on. And if you're curious as to what an increased attack rate siege tank looks like, well, yeah. That. It's pretty ridiculous. One of the other upgrades that we really need to focus in on, because it is the linchpin of the entire speedrun, is the very top one at 25 research for Protoss. It is called the Orbital Strike. It allows you to build any barracks unit and drop it anywhere on the map. When you set a rally point, it will arrive on a drop pod, and the only requirement is that you set your rally point to a piece of walkable terrain. This means that we can place units wherever we want on the map. It allows us to circumvent quite a lot of things about Blizzard's level design. It's very, very useful for speedrunning, but since it takes 25 Protoss research, we basically have to plan the entire run around it. So now we're going back to the mission tree and trying to figure out, okay, which missions have 25 Protoss research? Can we get 25 Protoss research before the missions that we really want to use this upgrade on the most? The answer is yes, but we do have to mess around with our mission plan a little bit, find out that the first mission that we absolutely need it on, we have 25 Protoss research available total. So it means now as we're playing through the game, we're going to have to make sure we detour to pick all of this Protoss research, because this ability is so ridiculously strong that it will save more time than we're wasting by picking up all of these researches. So this is the very basic level of analyzation you need to do when you're trying to speedrun a game. Just figure out what your plan is, what your route is, so to speak, to use the speedrunning term. And next, we're just going to go into unit abilities. What things can we use mechanically in the game for our benefit? Well, of course, we've some very obvious answers. We've got lifting buildings, which you can see in the Outlaws to activate a base early. Devil's Playground, you can fly it up there to activate the command center, which also allows you to activate the Reapers earlier than usual, which then allows you to start picking up the mineral pickups, which allows you to circumvent the entire purpose of the mission. Another thing is lifting buildings to skip entire portions of the map, as you might see on Smash and Grab. And clever unit usage can circumvent large portions of the match, such as on Ghost of a Chance, when you mind control this battle cruiser and kill the objective without having to go through another large portion of the map. Or it can be used to skip entire maps, as in Echoes of the Future, which, if you haven't seen this done before, basically, Zeratul is a ninja because they gave him the blink ability, he's cloaked, and he goes invulnerable while he's on these beacons. So after he finishes the beacon, he heals up completely, so with the clever usage of some observers and moving Zeratul around, we can just skip from beacon to beacon to beacon to beacon and ignore the entire map. This is a very good example of speedrunning and how much planning it takes, because it takes a lot of trial and error to get to this point. But you still need to analyze things, look at the map, look at the layout, look at your abilities before you can get to this point. So when it comes to coming down with speedrunning strategies, you really want to try and just break the game. Don't be merciful towards the game. It doesn't have feelings. The developers might. Sorry, Blizzard, don't patch my strategies, please. And just go about, if you can think of anything abusive, try it. When it comes to the next part, where it's really just going to come up with some good practice and gameplay, one of the other things that you can do is on the dig, which is a very annoying mission that a lot of people might be familiar with. You have that big drill that you need to drill down the door with, and the only way to really speed that up is to keep the drill on the door for more time. When you're playing on the hardest difficulty, that's very difficult because Blizzard designed it so that you have to switch the drill off and hit large units, the Colossus, the Archons, Immortals, etc. So what we came up with was using Ghosts and their indefinite cloak ability to wall off. This means that we can wall off our ramps, be completely safe in our base, and the drill can stay on the door the entire time. It also makes some amusing AI behavior because, well, the AI never really catches on, and it kind of results in this. Yeah, so that's a thing, and that's more of an example of clever unit ability and upgrade usage. So this brings us to one of the other super annoying missions that a lot of you guys would remember. It is called a Maw of the Void, which, if you remember, is the one about battle cruisers and how you have to move through the entire map with battle cruisers avoiding these generators. And it's designed around making you have to use the battle cruisers because they're big, they're powerful, and they have lots of health. They're really the only things that can tank through the damage that they're taking from the rip fuel generators to reliably move all the way across the map. It kind of slows down the pace of the game, though, because they're so big and expensive. They take so long to build, and they move very slowly. So it really slows things down, and it was kind of frustrating for a lot of people. But I can actually complete this mission in under 5 minutes with some good unit ability usage, and we'll just let this play in the background while I talk about it. One of the things that we're going to do, this is going to be the first mission that we aim to use the orbital strike on. So we're going to be dropping units where they shouldn't be. You can see that I'm going to drop a Marine and put it... Wait a second. There's no upgrades. How am I supposed to make it dance, Blizzard? Anyways, we're going to drop a Marine into the left side of the map because it triggers a whole bunch of cutscenes that, if that happens later on, can interrupt us and make it difficult. So we're just going to sacrifice a Marine with the orbital strike to trigger those both so we don't have to worry about them later. Now we've got multiple Ghost Academies up so we can start building multiple nukes, 2 barracks going, and we're going to fly a medevac over just to pick up some extra resources. This isn't strictly necessary anymore. We have come up with some better optimizations, but it's just sort of habit at this point. And as you can see, what happens is the basic idea is we're dropping a cloaked unit, a ghost, into their base right next to the objective, and we're just going to nuke it. It becomes difficult because of the rip field generator, because of the fact that the ghost will slowly lose health over time, and on Brutal there's lots of units around. So you have to be very quick on your feet about cloaking the ghost as soon as it lands. But if you get the placement right, and you get used to doing that quickly enough, the ghost won't take any damage, it can call down the nuke, and add a couple of shots onto the vault. You can see that there's the big mothership here. There's a few other units that are going to be behind this ghost when it lands as well. And the basic idea is just practicing this to the point where you can get the ghost down without it taking any damage. With some good optimizations, we can get this down to 4 nukes to kill the objective. You can see all the units move forward, and they're like, hey, where'd you go? Which way did he go? Which way did he go? The mothership slowly flies over, which is important because the mothership is actually giving us vision. But another fun AI thing is that when the vault takes damage, the mothership teleports back, so it will return and give us our vision again. And we just continually call down these ghosts, nuke it several times, and we take our way all the way to victory. You can see that the in-game timer will be a bit over 5 minutes, but the Blizzard in-game timer goes on slightly slower than real time. So if you were to time this out in real time, it would be under 5 minutes. So that is this mission, done very cleverly, using abilities that were given to us by Blizzard. Some of you might consider this a little bit of cheating, but that's basically the way speedrunning works. You try and circumvent missions to defeat them as fast as possible. You don't let yourself get forced into the way that the developer intended you to do it, because, well, sometimes the way the developer intended you to do it is just very slow. So now, after we've seen why this upgrade is so important and why we need to design our entire run around it, well, I want to step back a little bit and look at the mission before it. Because when we get to the mission before it, which is Supernova in the speedrun, we are actually at 21 Protoss research, 4 short of enough to get the orbital strike upgrade. So we have to start this mission and get all the rest. Thankfully, there are exactly 4 Protoss research on this map. You can see that up here in the top right when we start the map, there is the objective we need. And I'm going to ping the map and show off the research. They're spread out a decent amount. The first 3 are pretty close to your starting base and relatively easy to get. But the one all the way over there on the right is behind a lot of units, is very difficult to get to, and generally a pain. But since we have the orbital command, what we can do is we can just scan and then call down a mule on top of it, which is something we're going to use for one of the other ones as well. So once we have a plan on how we're going to get these upgrades, we need to complete the mission as fast as possible. The old way of doing it was to fly a whole bunch of Banshees through the defenses and hope enough of them survived to be able to kill the vault. It was pretty messy, it was kind of a brute force method, but it still kind of worked. Wow. Dime on SDA actually came up with a much better way, which involves medevacs, Banshees, Marines, and a siege tank. So the basic idea now is we pick up all the research while we're building the units that we need, which is going to be a medevac, a siege tank. We have the Marines already at the start of the mission. Use the Banshees to clear out these areas so the Marauder can pick up these research, and pick up all the rest with the mules. Once we have all of the units ready that we need to do, we need to go on a little bit of a ninja mission, sneaking by the enemy units to have to kill as few of them as possible. This is where coming down to just learning the maps and playing them comes in, because you need to explore the map fully. You need to figure out, are there spots on the map that have not very many units that I can sneak by very easily? And that's what really allows this mission to work, is that there's only a couple units that we have to stop and kill, and then we can fly past, land in the back area where there's nothing covering it except for a couple of cannons, scouts, and phoenixes, and take out all the defenses of the siege tanks with the siege tank, Marines, the medevac, and the Banshees. And once all those defenses are down, we can just blast it. This is a new method, saves about 5 minutes over the old method, and it's just much cleaner. It's very tight execution-wise, but that's really just going to come down to the practice level of things. And this is generally how you work at speedrunning missions in StarCraft. You have to look at the very basic objective, what do you need to do to get there, and how can I make it happen quickly. Once you have the basic idea, you need to figure out where all the enemy defenses are and see if you can sneak around them. And everything after that is just execution. So StarCraft is, in many senses, easier than other games to speedrun because it's always the same. The AI will always behave in the same way every single time. This allows us to get into some really rote practice methods. Muscle memory is a very powerful thing for speedrunning StarCraft because the AI does the same thing every time. And it's a really good game to speedrun because of that. Generally, you don't want to be speedrunning games that are random in nature, and StarCraft generally isn't. So it also looks very impressive for a lot of people who've never seen this before. If you've played these missions and you're seeing me completely destroying them now, it might look really impressive, but all it really takes is some good planning and talking with others to create these plans and a little bit of practice. It takes considerably less practice to get good at this than it does to, say, get up to Grandmaster on the ladder. Alright guys, so the basic idea I'm trying to put across here is that speedrunning really isn't that difficult. It takes a good amount of time and practice to put into it, but it's no more than you really need to put in to get good at playing multiplayer. So if this is something that looks interesting to you, you can check out the websites I've directed you to before. And thanks again, Day9, for bringing me on here. Have a lot of fun with Heart of the Storm, guys.